Hello Final Fantasy fans, and welcome back to another Friday video. That is right, we have another card of the week style video for you, and today we're going to be talking about Nono. So yes, I will get it out of the way. If you are thinking that, oh, it's just going to be Zemus and Nono combo, yes, you're right. Skip to the end, see the list that we put together, have at it. However, I think there's so much more to this card that needs to be talked about that's kind of getting overshadowed by that fact, or maybe people just kind of immediately wrote off this card as something that, oh, it's just going to be in this, cheeky deck that you're going to be playing. But I think it does have other applications, and that's why I wanted to make this video. So up first, we have Nono himself. So 3-drop, that's fine. 4 attacks, you get to untap one of your backups, or activate it. And you get this effect where it really makes you look at the game a bit differently. So yes, where I immediately go is cards that are going to have haste, or maybe other cards that have effects that you always want to leave up, and that's where Summoner really comes into play. So we have these series of cards, and I just pick Summoner just to pick a water card, for example, that have a dull effect as part of the cost for this really amazing ability. And this now opens up the door where we can still play stuff on our turn, attack with whatever we want and have this up for our opponent's turn. Now, for that point, I did mention that this really works best with haste, so you can still get in that extra point of damage. Lightning is obviously going to be the key element for that kind of thing, because you can just use red mage and then you can get all into all that whole side discussion, if you will, which is obviously going to be a great card to go with it. But again, leaving those types of backups up is just so important. This great resource now that Nono can activate. Now, how much of your deck are you going to rely on that? Are you always going to be playing as a 2-3 of? Maybe you're playing the Moogle package. There are certainly some other considerations that you have to make while you're going through this deck building process, but I think it's at least worth looking into and seeing what other kind of Moogle packages we want to include, seeing what other backups might be useful, and it might actually surprise some of us what other cards we might have. So I very much just went through Mognet, picked some of my favorite backups to kind of think about some other deck building strategies we could build off of this and go from there. So for Lightning, we have Gertie. Now this one should be no surprise. I picked it because it's a Moogle. Yes, it could be Heroic Lulu, for example. It could be Red Mage for giving multiple things haste. But I wanted to make sure that we at least acknowledge the fact that we are getting more Moogles. Yes, there's other Moogles that are released in this set, and these cards only get better as we kind of increase in that concentration, so we get these other effects. Now, for those who maybe saw those spoilers ahead, we do have the Sarah coming that worked with Good King Moogle Mog in the Japan chapters version of the game. So fingers crossed. I'm picking up all my foil Moogles now just in case we get that deck. I'm really hopeful, but that's exactly the reason why I'm kind of keeping an eye on this and seeing what other Moogles we might get. Because now, and yes, it is going to require a mostly Lightning focused deck. We're going to have maybe 1 win backup and 4 Lightning backups to get the most out of this effect. But you can now threaten the activation of being able to shrink something 4,000 per turn, because you can shrink something, attack, untap it again. Maybe you have to spend a card from your hand to get the other 2 Lightning Crystal points. That's fine. If you can somehow turn this into, I'm going to discard a card in my hand and kill your guys for or trade up, a 2-drop into a 6-drop, whatever, you can see the value that can generate there. So yes, this will take a lot more work than it is probably worth. I will make that disclaimer now. However, it is absolutely something I want to keep an eye on and something that has my attention. Obviously, I love Moogles, so I'm a little bit biased. Now, outside of shrinking the power of those forwards, maybe we just want to do damage. So then we have Mont Blanc, which is another Opus IV card that we have. So choose a forward, deal 2,000 damage. Now, yes, this does have the caveat that you have to have Marsh on the field to use the effect, but very easily we can see that if we want to do a fire wind type of deck, we could just ping something for 4,000, 6,000, 8,000. This one I like a lot more because it only requires 1 fire crystal point to go into the effect. So yes, this is again the same case. We'd want to be very heavy on fire, very light and wind, just that being our only backup, and being able to get these multiple activations in. So the other thing to note there is that because we're going to be playing fire, and even some of the wind cards a little bit underpowered for what they do, this allows us to always be able to threaten that trade up, so we can attack with one guy, ping, trade up, attack with the other guy, untap this, suddenly we have a 7 versus their 9, threaten to use this again. And when you're having these different cards, it generates some kind of other advantage, or you're just playing these 2-drops that trade again into their 4, 5, or 6 drops for free, because we can just untap this, use it multiple times, and use our backups. You're going to be creating value in that direction. So it's again one of those things that you have to do a lot of work for. Who knows how good it's going to be in the long run, but it's just another thing that we should stop and consider. And again, here it is Moogle, so it does count for those other cards that care about if you have Moogles or not. Now, so we've talked about lowering the power, we've talked about dealing damage, and now let's talk about boosting the power up. So if you ever wanted to just have a Chocobo tribal deck, and I know someone's going to build it, we got more Chocobos, obviously, in this next set. And the Chocobos by themselves can be a little bit underpowered. You know, they have the bonuses of giving each other, you know, plus effects, giving them haste, giving them first strike, whatever it might be. But now this allows us to put ourselves in a position where, you know, Black Chocobo really doesn't care. It's going to get through. There's some other cards that are going to be able to either sneak on our opponents, or maybe we have the wind summon that I'm blanking on now that makes our guys unblockable. But now we have Fat Chocobo, where if there's that last guy that we really need, we can just sit there, pump our last Chocobo 3 times, give it plus 6,000, because it doesn't say once per turn or anything like that, and then make that our final attack and say, you're losing your, you know, one of your guys, or this is going to go through for the game. So because it's the same element, because Chocobo want to have that kind of theme to them already, I think that there might be a little bit of a spice more in this one. I also just love that it lets you get that card advantage off it. So it's a 5-drop, yes, it's expensive, but enters the field, you get to search for a job Chocobo or card name Chocobo, and I always, you know, have to make sure I comment on both those, cost 3 less, and play it directly onto the field. So you can play it, give it haste, untap it, give it a plus more power. Like, I absolutely love what this card opens up the options of doing. So yes, again, you have to wait to get the effect if you don't have haste, or maybe you set up for a couple turns later, but I think it's still fine to work with what it wants to. Now, speaking of wind-based decks, now there was the, again, that's someone that went into a Earth-Wind Golbez deck, and what more amazing thing to do than give Kefka multiple activations. Now, yes, I realize that Golbez player is thinking, oh, but I don't want to break multiple things in a turn. I don't want to kill my 2-drops, but there's been several turns, and anyone who's played Golbez even once has realized that, you know, you get that first attack, you could get to Kefka, trade up with their guys, and then you're just kind of stuck. You know, maybe you're trying to push through for those last couple points of damage. Maybe you just wish you had one more Kefka activation or something, and this is absolutely the card that's going to allow you to do it. Now, obviously, Wind Earth variant was a bit harder to build. The color, the element stretched a little bit further between how many cards make up each ones, but it wouldn't be the first time that we've seen kind of these 3 and 4 color Golbez decks outside of obviously the 2-drops that you're playing that make a top 8 appearance in these 30 or 40 player events. So Kefka absolutely gets my vote for some of the other shenanigans that we can do. You know, then we have the Prish decks that we can make, and maybe we want to do Prish and Haste and cycle those. There's a lot of really cheeky 3-color combination shenanigans that this would open, but we'll see where it goes. And then we have Fusoya. So this is another one of those obvious ones where if your opponent just has some things you want to kill, maybe you have a Cyclops to shrink them, you can Fusoya, or Cyclops first, Fusoya, attack with your guy, activate Fusoya, kill their other guy. Yes, you're going to take 2 points of damage, but at that point it might just free up your attacks. So yes, this is clearly the worst choice of the 2 that we're going to talk about here, but it is still an option. We saw the Fast and Fusoya deck from, I think that was Opus 2 meta that we ended up doing it for the deck building contest. And it did offer up, you know, a heavy EX burst style of deck. So again, to shout out Arvin's Rebellion again, we could then cycle in something of that kind of a package. Now, yes, you'd have to go into win, so it'd be a little bit harder to put together, but the option is there. And then last and not least is Zemus. There's obvious synergy is there. You have Nono, you have this, you attack, you untap Zemus, make something else unblockable, go to town. It's very straightforward. But what does that all mean when we put it together? How do we make this deck that you're not going to have Zemus every single game? It's, you know, you can run 2 at most. You'd never want to run 3 unless you have some kind of discard outlet, because it just gets stuck in your hand. Like, what else can we really do with it? And I realize that you're seeing this and you're probably going, no, and I'm going, yes. This is something that one of our members, Jason, put together, and it is, I realize it's a little cheeky on front, so I will acknowledge that up front, but combining with the red major we've talked about, the benefit of playing a bunch of these hasty forwards that we've talked about, getting to play multiple forwards in a turn, it really does put us very heavily towards this deck that just happens to be Dragoons. And funny enough, when we look at some of the other cards, that, you know, Dragoon's got the tutor, we still have things like Ramus that lets us get El Cid. Freya gets some extreme value in this deck as well from some of the other things that we're playing. So surprisingly, there's a lot of good things that we can be doing with this deck. And, you know, I'm not going to say that this deck is going to go win some 100-player regional or something, but it can probably still win at your locals and maybe might surprise us with a Wind Lightning Nono deck in some top 8 with the smaller regionals that maybe only get, you know, 20 people or so. But that is our video for this week. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Yes, we will be going back to more of these videos coming up next week and talking about more about Opus 4 cards, some other synergies that we're seeing, and going from there and really just trying to give you guys more deck building ideas or options out there, so you're not stuck just playing the same deck, or trying to get your locals interested. Maybe you can build a new deck for them, maybe something they haven't seen yet. It can get them excited to play the game. So that is all we have. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to drop a like, guys. It helps us out a lot. Drop down a comment below what your favorite Nono based deck is going to be going forward. And of course, make sure to subscribe for future Final Fantasy trading card game content. So on behalf of myself and the rest of the 6 Stages Gaming, thank you so much for watching. This video made possible thanks to the Patreon support of viewers such as yourself. Thank you to our honorary sages.